of probably 10 capable guys around him, and then he had a ton of associates. So he supposedly approached Peter Gotti at the time, and Peter Gotti said no. For some reason he said no. He's like, we can't get it past the commission. I think the commission was still kind of around back then. I don't know if Peter was like giving him lip service, but at the end of the day, he said no. He went to Joey Molino, and what I understand about Joey, and Nadu probably knows of him better, is he's a big money guy. If you can make him some money and it's reasonable, he's in. He's very loyal to his local crew, of course, but he's also a smart business guy in terms of the mob stuff. So obviously they worked out a deal. Some people believe that Bobby bought his button. I don't believe so. I think Bobby was just a big earner and then happened to give a lot, right? Which makes it easier. Now, interesting enough is for some reason, and John Panisi I got into this a little bit, but we didn't get it deep enough. Vecchia Musso was working really hard to block Bobby from being with Philly, and because he had a relationship with the Patriarchas. That part I don't know. If somebody knows in the comments, let me know. But for some reason, Vecchia Musso had a hard on for Bobby, didn't want him to get made. So at any rate, so he got made with Philly. He had a group of 7 or 8 made guys, and he had about 100 associates, and they were pretty powerful. The last part, sorry for the verbal diarrhea, is allegedly he had a deal with Joey to do 2 years on his own, 2 years with him, and then break off on his own to actually start the Luisi family. I believe it, but I don't think Bobby has a reason to lie, but that's my understanding of his.
The Luisi family, you mean the Luisi crew?
Well, I mean, some families are small, like 35, 40 people. Remember, Bobby had about 100 associates under him outside of his made guys. So if he were to crew up, I would assume 15 to 20
were probably the big boys would have had to sign off on that, honestly.
But I think what happened is after Patriarchus Senior died, Junior took over, was a shit show. The Anjulas went away, and there was a war in Boston in the 90s. And Boston, although there was more bodies dropping in Boston than in New York at the time, but just Boston never really got its act together. You kind of had it wasn't the old days of Patriarcha or Providence who controlled Boston. So I think I slid into the power vacuum.
It's kind of like Springfield with the Genoveses, Tom.
Yes, that is correct. So that's what happened, and it was like, well, wait a second, what do we do now? And then he hooked up with Joey. He was a very big earner. I mean, people can kind of say what they want about Bobby, but he was a big earner. He was very capable. He was a serious guy. He loved the life, and then he was actually willing to go away for the 10 years. And that was part of his plan. So if he got pinched, he would take a 10-year pinch. He made his money. He bought the condo in Florida, and then see you later. Then guys started rolling against him, and they had a death deal with him. And then allegedly he was going to flip, gave them info. The deal died at the last minute, and then I don't believe he ever took the stand. So again, I know there's a little mixed reviews on that.
In most families by the 90s, if you could be talked about by other people and you made money, I'm going to guarantee most of the smaller, at least the smaller, maybe not the Genoveses or somebody like that, but a smaller type of family would say, okay, you can come with us.
Yeah.
We're willing to take your money. You can jump in what we're doing here. But by that point you're trying to make money. And in the 90s, it was starting to tail off a little bit. I don't think it would have been as easy in the 60s to do that, but
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I don't think there was any the local presence. Also, Bobby and I kind of like this about him. He was a little cocky. He's like, well, what are they going to do? He was very strong. I spent time with Paul. I joke around, but if you had 5 Pauls, and then some earners and a good capo, you're good. Paul, go sit down, have espresso with you, laugh with you, joke with you, but he will rip your fucking head off. There's no two ways about it. I spent time with him, and I love him to death. But he scares me more than a lot of other mobsters I hung out with, because he seems like a guy that is a good guy and fun. He'll kill for you, but if it ever comes to you having to go and you're on the wrong side of the situation, you're going. So I just think Bobby had a strong crew.
You got to ask yourself, Tom, and we've talked about this before. Yeah. If you're someone that I did a video on Jimmy Napoli, right? He was a guy that made tons of money in the numbers rackets, had connections, knew a ton of
Jimmy
people.
Knapp was a whale. He actually was the one who
He knew Fred Trump, you know.
Yeah,
He was big in real estate, but like he made it clear for like long periods in his life, he didn't want a button. Like he was making a ton of money. He had major respect.
Yeah.
And you look back at guys that didn't have a button. Let's just look at Jimmy Burke.
You were thinking, you said you were referring to Long John as the one that wasn't made?
No, Jimmy Napoli was a guy.
Oh, Jimmy Napoli. Okay.
Jimmy Knapp, yeah.
All right.
But like,
Sorry
he even
about that.
said, like, I don't want the button. Like, I'm good being an associate. I don't need to be. Like, if you're Bobby Luisi, like, why not just do your thing? Like, why do you even give a shit about being like with someone else?
You know it is. You're a kid.
Or just stay
that's all you know. You know, that's all.
Yeah.
Like it's almost like, you know, the Yankees are still the Yankees to Joe and me. You know, to you, I don't know if it's the Phillies, and it's always like that's who you wanted to be. So to get that button, you know, but yeah, I know.
If he was making money, they would have took a piece of his ass. That's what people don't. Maybe everyone does realize, but you know, if you're gonna, you know, make money or whatever, you know, they're coming for you one way or another, and there's nothing you could do about it, really. So being made, it does help you. You have the backing now of Philly. There's a war going on in Boston.
Correct.
So maybe,
And
you know.
Philly. Yeah.
I guess for me, like, I just would kind of just say, if I'm in that life, like, I'd be perfectly fine being an associate. I'll make as much money as I can. And again, it's going to take a while because if you look at Napoli, he didn't get jammed up until the 80s when he became a capo and got jammed up in that Bobby Madden thing. So, like, it's just kind of crazy. I would have
a lot of positives and negatives, because even, you know, truth of the matter is, an inducted member as opposed to an associate is a fucking huge difference. You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, these guys, you're a made guy, you know, they have to respect you, the people that are friends of yours, you know what I mean? Yeah. And they really can't fuck you over out of money, and they gotta, you know, like they're like, I'm your brother, basically, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of clout that goes with it too.
Well, yeah, that's true. I guess, you know, as Tom said, you know, it's kind of the dream, right? You know, you're a baseball player. Your dream is to play for the Yankees. It's like, I get it. You know, it's just, I guess it depends on how connected you are. But
Kid's Nice makes a good point. You're kicking up no matter what. Might as well be made. But I will say this. I remember reading. I want to do a show on it. We should all do it together. The Men of Honor or Man of Honor from Tommaso Buscetta. I know the irony that he wrote that, but he said in one of his quotes that, you know, I don't want to be a mafiosi for the money. I could make money. It's what happened when I walked into a room and a man would sit up straight. I'm paraphrasing, or the way people reacted to me when I walked into a room that I was a man of honor. That's why I wanted to be a mafiosi. Now we could argue it may have less shine on it now, but again, I'm going by my former co-host. He said there was a big disparity in many ways between a guy who got a stripe and an associate, you know?
I seen one time my old man was having a fucking dispute with a made guy. Okay? The made guy put his hands on my old man. But my old man couldn't do anything about it. You know what I mean? He just could not, because, you know, getting slapped in the face is different than getting a bullet in your head. And back then, they killed you for that.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference. You know, if you become a made member, you could lie, cheat, and steal legitimately, basically. Yeah. So you got a license to steal.
Ask Paul Galino about what happens when you push somebody. You know, we all know about that situation.
Of all people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I heard that story, but I don't know, man. Because he had a big drug thing going on. I mean, would he be stupid enough to push Spiro? He's got to know that would be a fucking death sentence.
But you remember, he was running around with Tommy Patera. He's getting a little, you know, thinking he's arrogant, doing his thing. It ain't going to be a big deal. Maybe he didn't think, maybe he thought he was untouchable at that point. He ain't going to kill me. I've known him since I was a kid, you know?
Yeah.
If Tommy Karate was on the streets, he would have never pushed Spiro. I mean, because, you know, Tommy Karate would have to kill him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it has more to do with the drug operation. The guy put a bullet in his head and fucking took over his drug operation. So maybe, but they say that he pushed him. He did this. From what I know of Spiro, no. He wouldn't even meet with people. That's the other thing. Maybe he met with Paulie G. I don't know. But Spiro was like,
had some. I mean, he knew those kids since they were kids.
Right.
Maybe he was not as quick to say, you know what, the kid's young. Like, I don't know. I do think it's far-fetched that he just killed the kid because he might have shoved him or something. I don't know. We'll never know, I guess.
No, my uncle, my Johnny Fountains, my uncle grew up with the Scabettas, mainly Nicky Scabetta.
Yeah.
Who is
shit, really?
Yeah. They were on